there was a profile which effectively was like a tracing of that artist's impression.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're looking at the creepiest, most unfortunate, and most tragic things that have occurred on television game shows. We will only be including footage that you actually see in the show, so behind-the-scenes stories will not count.
ものすごく残酷なひどいことをされている。
The Charles Ingram scandal. Who wants to be a millionaire?
£500,000. You no longer have that. You just won $1 million!
It didn't take long for someone to exploit this show, and it was surprisingly easy. The program premiered in 1998, and just 3 years later, it hosted British Army Major Charles Ingram. Ingram struggled with many questions, but miraculously managed to guess the correct one every single time.
I'm gonna go for A1. Yep.
Final answer.
No.
He walked away with the top prize, but the producers thought, quote, "There's just no way," and refused to hand over the money. During an investigation, they found that Ingram's wife and a fellow contestant named Tequin Whittick would cough when Ingram read the correct answer. It was that simple. The scandal had a profound impact on the game show industry, and all three conspirators were given suspended prison sentences. Ingram was also forced to resign from the army.
Used a 50-50, Coldplay and Top Loader went. He then went for A1. Then, because I actually rather lost the plot of his thinking then.
Richard Dawson kissing women. Family Feud.
Richard Dawson!
The 70s were a weird time. Richard Dawson was a fine host of Family Feud, but he had one bizarre trademark, and that was kissing women on the lips while their partners were in the audience. Some call it a casual display of affection, a cute little gesture to make contestants feel welcomed.
Hey, hey, hey! The current one. How you doing, darling?
Others see it as highly inappropriate and borderline creepy. Societal attitudes towards personal space, consent, and professional boundaries have changed significantly since the 1970s. And while there's something to be said for changing norms, Dawson's kissing wasn't exactly a hit back then either. In fact, television executives and producers hated the practice and continuously asked Dawson to knock it off. He didn't.
I'm feeling good.
Demeaning contestants, the $1.98 beauty show.
And now, are you ready? This is the moment we've been waiting for.
There's a fine line between satire and humiliation, and we're not sure if the $1.98 beauty show walked it successfully. Released in the late 70s, the game show was a parody of beauty pageants, with contestants often encouraged to act in ridiculous ways for a rotten bouquet of flowers and $2 in change. Hosted by Rip Taylor, the show had an irreverent tone and featured contestants who often didn't fit the standard mold of beauty pageant participants.
We're going to lose a little weight, aren't we, dear?
Their appearance and talents were often the subject of open mockery, and some appeared visibly uncomfortable with the whole charade. The show received some backlash for exploiting and demeaning the participants, and it was canceled after 2 years.
Hello, sweetie. Karen Horn. Toot toot.
Lauren Cleary tells the truth, the moment of truth.
Frank wanted to hear the answer to this question. Monica, why did you hit the button?
I don't want to hear that answer.
A short-lived Fox show, The Moment of Truth saw contestants answering personal questions for cash. They were given a polygraph test beforehand, and the questions were repeated in the studio. If they told the truth, they won. If they lied, they were out. Lauren Cleary was a contestant, admittedly seeking, quote, fame and fortune. Well, she certainly got that.
Do you believe I'm the man you should be married to?
Over the course of the game, Cleary admitted that she had committed theft, that she had cheated on her husband, and that she secretly wished to be married to her ex-boyfriend. It was painfully awkward for everyone involved, even host Mark Wahlberg, who begged the network not to air the episode. They did, and it was horrible.
Have you guys talked about this ex-boyfriend at all?
Yeah, earlier on in our marriage, but I mean, I didn't know he was still an issue.
The quiz show scandals, various.
You make it sound like you didn't have a choice.
What was I supposed to do at that point? Disillusion the whole goddamn country?
Charlie, you took the money.
Yes!
Quiz shows were nearly ruined as soon as they began. The genre was immensely popular in the 1950s, but fun soon turned to fury when a major scandal emerged detailing an intricate cheating scheme. Producers of various shows had been rigging their games, mostly to generate false drama for continued interest and views.
21 is rigged and I can prove it. One, how long they were on the show was all a scheme to keep the ratings up.
This is best exemplified through the continued success of Herb Stempel, who became a media sensation while dominating the show 21. Only his entire 6-week reign was rigged, as he was fed answers by the producers. It was Stempel who eventually blew the whistle, and the backlash was incredible. Public trust was destroyed, a multitude of shows were canceled, and Congress even amended a law preventing future tampering on game shows.
See, I don't think an adult of your intelligence ought to be commended for simply, at long last, telling the truth.
Edward Edwards, To Tell the Truth.
My name is Ed Edwards.
And here is the extraordinary story of Ed Edwards.
Some game shows welcome controversial figures, and To Tell the Truth was one of them. In this game, 3 people claim to be the same person, and panelists must ask questions to discern who is telling the truth and root out the real contestant. In this episode, they had to guess the real Ed Edwards, a reformed man who was once on the FBI's 10 most wanted list.
It says, I, Ed Edwards, was once on the FBI's list of the 10 most wanted criminals in America. Now I am a respected citizen in my community.
Edwards was contestant number 3, having landed himself on the list after committing robbery and escaping from prison. It gets worse. 5 years after the show, Edwards committed murder and would go on to kill at least 5 people, possibly as many as 15. He was finally apprehended in 2009 and died in prison.
No, when I was released from the reformatory, they looked up to me, and this motivated me to go on to bigger things, because this is why I was out there committing the crime, was for the recognition.
John Cooper, Bullseye.
You've got an unusual hobby, John, haven't you?
Oh yes, the scuba diving.
The scuba diving.
A British game show popular in the 1980s, Bullseye combined darts and trivia. In May of 1989, a man named John Cooper appeared on the show, telling host Jim Bowen about his love of scuba diving. But Cooper had a much darker hobby. He had a long criminal history stretching back to the early 1960s, including assault and theft.
You've got £220. What are you going to do?
He'd like to gamble.
But his crimes got progressively more serious, and just 4 years before appearing on Bullseye, Cooper murdered a pair of siblings while robbing their farmhouse. And just 1 month after the show, he murdered a tourist couple after robbing them on a walking path. He was finally apprehended in 2009, and the prosecution used the footage from Bullseye to link Cooper to an eyewitness sketch.
The way he was standing, his build, the hair, the scraggly hair, the sort of shoulder length, the unkempt look and moustache.
The failed car jump, Wetten das. German for wanna bet that Wetten das was an enormously popular European game show that was broadcast all across the continent. But it experienced a major ratings decline in the early 2010s, starting with the infamous Samuel Koch incident. Koch appeared on December 4th, 2010, betting that he could jump over 5 moving cars using a pair of jumping stilts. He went through 3 cars unscathed, but the 4th proved disastrous. The vehicle was being driven by Koch's own father, and the stuntman failed to jump it, instead spilling over the top and landing on his head. Everyone immediately knew that it was bad, and it was. Koch had broken his neck and was left with quadriplegia. Tomoaki Hamamatsu is tormented. Susuno Denpa Shonen. A highly controversial Japanese game show, Susuno Denpa Shonen was known for placing contestants in extreme, often inhumane conditions. Hamatsu's challenge was to remain isolated in a small apartment and live entirely off what he won in mail-in sweepstakes. He would only be freed once he won 1 million yen in prizes, about the equivalent of $8,000.
向こうがもう終わり、やめるっていうのを待ってた部分があると思います。
Once this goal was met after 335 days, Hamatsu was taken to yet another apartment in South Korea, with the goal of winning a ticket home to Japan. All told, Hamatsu spent 15 months in complete isolation, living mostly on dog food and rice, playing video games, and speaking to a stuffed toy for companionship.
1ヶ月ぐらいが目安から、その肉体的にも精神的にもどんどんこう体力を奪われていくというのか。
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Rodney Alcala, The Dating Game.
Between takes, he might find him skydiving or motorcycling. Please welcome Rodney Alcala. Rod, welcome.
A bachelor-type game show, The Dating Game saw three men sitting behind a partition while a woman asked them questions laced with innuendo. She would then choose one and the couple would go on a date. In 1978, a man named Rodney Alcala appeared on the show, wooing bachelorette Cheryl Bradshaw.
However, you did leave one remaining, and this is your date, and I want to tell you something about him.
However, Bradshaw refused the date, finding Alcala to be, quote, creepy, a sentiment that was mirrored by one of the other contestants. Their intuitions were correct. Alcala was a convicted sex offender and serial killer, having murdered at least 8 people throughout his life, but possibly more than 130. By the time he appeared on The Dating Game, he had already killed multiple people and had spent time in prison for sexual assault.
So I guess this means we're not really meeting up in Carmel anymore?
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere with you.
Did you see any of these live? Let us know in the comments below.
Quite honestly, if I had my vote, it would not air.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.